I met David very briefly and not so long ago through a common friend. And it took me only a few minutes to understand that I had to have this conversation with him. So much to learn, so many questions that I have on the very hot topic that we are all observing with a very skeptical eye. Hi, I'm Gianluca Ciplepalmi. I'm an educator, design entrepreneur, and author. We are here in Soho House, Hong Kong, with the creative leaders of the house. The more complex and volatile our world becomes, the more we need creatives and change makers help us to inspire us, to challenge us, and disrupt the status quo. In this episode, the human in the machine, with founder and lead advisor at Humantyze, David Ko. Ciao, David. Welcome to the show.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
So, David, thank you so much. And we had a brief conversation, and already you hooked me in so much. You spent so many years in corporate, and now with your latest development, you combine the practice of leadership with the future of AI.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
So I have so many questions. I have a very disruptive view of the future, but I want to have this conversation with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your work first? So
Absolutely. So I started Humantyze in January of this year.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very new company. But prior to that, I was in the marketing space for 30 years. And so I come into this with a little bit of an understanding about human behavior. But I think more importantly, I wanted to kind of look at this AI thing that's happening in our world and playing a part in ensuring that it doesn't completely destroy us, but in the process help us become better as a society and as a human race. So it's a very lofty goal, but I really wanted to embrace it because actually the past 2 years I was head of AI at the marketing agency that I used to work at, Rudafin. Sure. And so I've always been immersed in the generative AI generation of AI. Mm-hmm. And this is something that's very close to my heart. And I just wanted to make sure that I was devoting all of my attention to it, but in a way that ensures that we're not letting it take over in a bad way. And that's why I call the company Humantyze, because I think it's important to stay human as we're facing this onslaught of very inhuman, superhuman intelligence that's going to change our world.
Absolutely. So you have this very interesting dual perspective because you've been in the corporate world, so part of the corporate mechanism, let's say, and now you see it from the outside. What are the things that leaders don't see yet, or that they are underplaying or undermining? I'm very curious.
So as a part of my new company, I do a lot of executive coaching and leadership development. And I am currently coaching close to 10 leaders, so people in very senior positions, working in various industries from manufacturing to marketing and so on. One of the through lines that runs into all of these coaching conversations is this sense of unease. I think there is a lot of apprehension about their future, their jobs, their careers, but also their ability to lead and manage. And it's interesting because you said, what are they hiding or what are they quietly not saying? On the surface, most of them know they need to embrace AI.
Okay.
And so in public, they are very positive, very immersed in this new way of the world operating. But in private, there's a lot of nervousness, there's a lot of skepticism, and I'm hearing a lot of them sensing that if things don't go well, it's going to fail spectacularly for them. In fact, funnily enough, I read a study just the other day. This was a Harris poll, and they interviewed 900 CEOs globally. 80% of the CEOs believe they will be fired if they don't implement AI well in their companies.
Sure.
And that shows you how much apprehension there is, because they know that if they don't embrace it, it's going to take over. But if they don't do it well, they're going to fail. And kind of going back to that human element of what I feel is missing in the AI conversation right now, a lot of these pilot projects fail because they forget the human elements, or they're focusing on the wrong things. And oftentimes that isn't necessarily the leader's fault. I think it's the whole macro conversation about AI. We talk about increasing productivity, replacing jobs, displacing jobs, cost savings and all of that. And I think that becomes the wrong conversation. And I feel like a lot of these leaders are struggling because they're not focused on the right things.
True.
Yeah.
If I can pitch in, because within my work, I do very similar. I do a lot of executive training, more on the aspect of creative leadership, innovation, design, not my side of the field. But every day I get the email, "Oh, can you come and talk about AI and do AI?" And I was like, "You are asking me to help you with electricity." So it's like asking, "Oh, come here and teach us about electricity," right? So I think in this moment of time, we are observing this. I have 2 points to relate to what you said that is super interesting. The first point is human element, in the sense, what are you want to achieve with this technology? So the real question is not, imagine this is a magic box and it can do anything. The question is, what do you want to do? The second part that I want to riff on, and I'll try to attach a question to it, is my work, the work that we do in Creative Leaders, is about making people become makers. No? So the conversation is always about two main topics, which is growth and is innovation, in the sense of making things better. I always hear the conversation that you said: cost reduction, optimization, cutting cost. I rarely hear, "Oh, now we have a technology that allow us to become better at delivering whatever we are delivering as a product, as a service, whatever it is." We were saying before, I'm an insurance company. I'm going to use AI to make better predictions, or provide more support, or provide
process claims faster.
Process claim faster. Yeah. And it's always this conversation of, in a way, optimization rather than implementation and betterment. And is the leadership subtle line here? How do we change that? How do we have this conversation about, look, you have this amazing technology that can actually make you do harder things, more complex things, rather than just, "Oh, this is going to cut 200 people."
It's very true that it helps you do harder things quicker, more easily. I think the essence of the argument is, what are the harder things that we choose to do? And going back to what I said earlier about, like, what are the proper incentives? We get the behavior we reward. And yes. I don't want to turn this into a whole criticism of capitalism, but this is a system that we live in, right? So we live in a very commercial world. We are incentivized to maximize profit, generate income, increase revenue, all of that, if you're running a business, right?
Yes.
And so under this system that we live in, that is the one, sole purpose that a lot of us are being judged by. And so fundamentally, I think, if not that the system needs to change, I think the way that we live within that system needs to change. And I don't believe that this is a lost cause. I do believe that there are certainly some economies in the world that do it better than others. Nobody's perfect, but some of them do it better than others. You may have heard the news the other day about a court in China that now makes it illegal to fire people because of AI.
Yeah.
I think that's a small but positive step.
Yeah.
That is not something that would happen in the West, I'm sorry to say. And so it does make you kind of stop and wonder, is there a way for us to reward the right behavior? And so I'm an optimist at heart.
Yeah.
So I think that we just, more and more of us just have to stand up and say, we're headed in the wrong direction and we need to right the ship.
I think when we talk about leadership, there is a lot of still misconception in the common views. And I personally met very seasoned leader that still today they tell me, oh, but I can't share this information because this is my proprietary information. I have this information, so that information holds power, right? And I think one of the paradigm shift that is going to happen very quickly is about this distributed intelligence. No, AI to function properly, it requires distributed information because it needs to connect the dots that are hard to connect. And so this is the real big paradigm, in my opinion. So when we approach this mindset of shifting or reimagining, I always say this, it's so nice that you said it. It makes me so happy. I'm just saying that to me, we have to change the reward system, right? Yeah. Because we are humans, and humans are very capable and very smart. So if you ask somebody to do something, and that is what is rewarded, guess what?
They will find a way to do it.
They will find a way to do it. And so that's the key. If we change the reward system, if we change what it is required. So if it is required for you to be a visionary, to be an entrepreneur, to be an empowering force within your organization, and that is rewarded. And then the fact that you also match the bottom line is a consequence.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that what you said about power and leadership. Your first question to me was around what are leaders feeling these days that they don't want to articulate. I think this sense of they used to derive their power from knowing things.
True.
Nowadays, if you're a leader, your power comes from asking the right questions.
Yes.
And also managing the right clusters of whether it's people, agents that bring you that information and what do you do with it, right? And so I think for a lot of old school people, especially old school leaders, knowledge is no longer power, and that is a transition that they are struggling through because, well, first of all, they don't use AI enough, so their ability to access information is limited. And also, I think, especially in the early days of Gen AI, they were outsourcing the implementation of AI. And so there was a period where they were just bringing in consultants to come in and just figure this out for us, do this AI thing for us, so I don't need to worry about it and I don't need to know what to do with AI. I think that mindset has shifted, especially in the past year. And I think everyone's feeling the pressure now among the senior leaders of, oh, I actually need to know this stuff and I need to know it well so that I can lead. And so that shift in the power balance has been very interesting. And I don't know that everyone's going to get on the bus.
Sure.
Those that can get on the bus and really lean into it are the ones that can make a difference.
So we are on this paradigm because we are now unpacking so many interesting facets of this very complex argument. I mean, the other thing that I notice is that most of the time we uber simplify the complexity of a subject. I mean, we are facing a disruption, like it or not.
Yeah.
We are in the midst of a disruption, so we need to be careful of also that we are not simplifying too much. The future, and we are already seeing this prominently, the future of work is going to be a mix. The team as we know it today is going to be for sure a mix of human and agents. So what do you see, how that dynamic could play out?
The future of work is going to be significantly different. There are studies that say that within 5 years, 80% of the work that knowledge workers do today will be automated. It will be done by agents. So that means that your 80% of what you're doing today will not be there. 80% of the work that you do today will not be there. So what expands to fill that space is the question. And the way that companies are organized will also significantly shift, I think. I think you know how we have the org chart,
Yeah.
you know, with the CEO at the top, and then everybody kind of branches down. That's going to change. And some organizations or some companies are already making the change and making the shift. So I think the future of org charts is going to look very different. I think instead of the tree, you know, the downward branches or whatever, is going to be like lily pads.
Yeah.
So we're going to have
network.
overlapping circles. We're going to have clusters of humans and agents.
Yeah.
And it's going to be humans working alongside agents, humans and agents orchestrating other humans and other agents. So it's going to be a very interesting kind of like, it's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And I think that these organizations are going to be, these clusters are going to be very flexible. They'll kind of coalesce around a specific outcome or a specific project, and then they'll kind of like reform and reshape. I genuinely believe that the days of the CEO being on top of everything is going to gradually go away.
Sure.
So I think that's one thing that we're going to see, if not in 5 years' time, maybe in 10 years' time. But at some point, we're going to look back at our definition of the CEO today, and we're going to think it's very quaint. So I think that's a significant shift. But we're going through a period now of disruption. I do feel that we are going through a lot of layoffs, especially in the West. I have no doubt that there's a wave of quiet job displacement happening everywhere in the world, even in Hong Kong, even if we don't talk about it. But there are more and more people talking about it now, and it's going to hit us. It's going to hit us, right? And so
I have a very, I don't know, like you, I'm an optimist, but I'm also one of the things that I've been doing for the past decade, even in education, was to promote this idea of entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship, right? So I want to detour. I want to detour on this, and I want to bring I have an idea, and I want to bounce it to you, because you talked about these layoffs, right? So one of the latest, I can talk publicly about it because it's news. Disney fired 1,000 creatives from the Marvel universe, and I was having this discussion with a friend that is in that space, and a couple of them had completely different views. So one was more about the angry, negative, oh, the company shouldn't do this, they are terrible, they are awful, etc. And then I was actually coaching one of them, senior, and I said, well, look at from a different perspective. So all these amazing artists, they don't need the studio anymore. If they do have the creativity, and with the power of AI, you can have a full production team in your bedroom, and you can publish your version of the Avengers, whatever, on YouTube for free. And now the question is, if these amazing 1,000 people are actually the powerhouse and the brain, and they can create something different and new and appealing, then Disney is in trouble. Because if they are just doing iterative work, then the problem is if I can look and I make it, this is a basic example, no? If I can watch the new Avengers, let's say, on YouTube for free, because there is a bunch of rag people that are doing this amazing work and is better than what you can produce, then you are in trouble. So it's an interesting paradigm that is happening, because nowadays I see if you are able to become more of a creator, more of a maker, the marginal cost of production is basically zero. So you can do it. If you are, and this is a little bit the work that we do, right? So to help people to have that mindset of entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship, and you can build your own things. Like tomorrow, you can build an app with zero. Okay, it's not going to be the app that can sustain 1 million people, because that requires a huge infrastructure. Yeah. But if you do an app good enough to serve, I'm making this up, 3,000 people that do that specific thing that you are really passionate about, and only those 3,000 people are passionate about, you're good. And even if they give you, $10 a month, you're set. I mean,
democratization.
Yeah.
I think the nuance, so you mentioned entrepreneurship, right? So I think the nuance of it is, so we used to say ideas are cheap, execution is king. So it's easy to and this is pre-AI, right? So we're saying to a would-be entrepreneur, it's not having the idea that's going to make you succeed, because just the idea is not enough. You need to execute well.
Sure.
And the third part of that journey, of course, is the distribution. So you go from ideation to execution to distribution. And the one thing that AI has changed is it's made execution very frictionless.
True.
So ideation was always not difficult, especially since you come from the creative field, you know that we're all full of ideas usually. So ideation is not the bottleneck. And now execution is no longer the bottleneck, because you can automate so much. So distribution now is the bottleneck. And by distribution, I mean actually getting your product in front of people.
Sure.
Which is, like I come from marketing, right? So marketing is about distribution. And that is becoming harder and harder, because the first two are so easy now.
True.
And
there is also a lot of noise.
Slop, yes, a lot of AI slop. There's a lot of noise. And so to penetrate through all of that and get to a good product, and then be able to distribute and get that in front of as many people as possible, that's the bottleneck these days. But I also feel like if you are someone who knows how to use the tools, and you don't just leave your creativity at the ideation stage, but put that into every part of the process, if you can be a very creative entrepreneur in the distribution stage, I think that's where the edge is going to be. Yeah, there's a lot of AI stuff right now, and that's turning off a lot of people. But for every 10 pieces of AI slop content, there's one piece of AI genius.
True.
There's definitely something there. So I'm on Instagram a lot. There are actually Instagram accounts that only output AI content. That's actually very good. I don't know if you have seen the dancing bears.
Yeah.
This is very cute. I think it's a little dog or a poodle. And it actually dances to pop songs, and it's great. There's another one called Giant Cowboy, which I probably shouldn't talk too much about that, because that's a little bit risque, but it's cute. And so there are certain accounts on Instagram that I follow that only generate AI content, and it's high quality content.
But I have a friend who is an animator, and he was always an amazing animator, an amazing creator, and he developed. I know two of them. He developed this very dark but interesting jazz series with these very characterized stick figures, and the production is super high quality. He's also on Instagram, and but The frictionless was in the production. Things that took him hours and months to produce, now he can produce in minutes. Or the very high level production of this super sci-fi, futuristic metal, like the quality there, to me, always comes from a great creative that then has frictionless in production. Although there is a viability issue because they spend a shit ton of money to do those things now, especially. But at the base was, if you have creativity and if you have the skill, then the production becomes amazing. My concern is more, and this is the question that I have for you, because I know that we share an idea, being reading your statements on Humantyze. We are more interested in, you know, a lot of people talk about AI as a tool, but you told me that you're more interested in what AI is going to do to the people, to the judgment, to their ideas. So if we take away the tool section, I'm very concerned about what is going to happen to the new generations if they don't have what I call discernment. What is AI good for? What is AI not good for? Can I trust blindly whatever comes out? Do I have to have this knowledge? Do I have the critical mind to understand what's good, what's bad? That's what I'm concerned about.
I think lazy competence is the way to describe it.
Okay.
AI has made us lazy. We've mistaken knowing with understanding. And it is inherent in the way that these large language models are put together, right? As we all know, they are trained to please. They are trained to give you what you want. And even if it doesn't have the answers, it's going to try to give you something that's very convincing. And that's where the hallucination happens. Even though with the newer generation of models, hallucination is becoming less and less of a problem. But hallucinations happen because AI has to give you something, right? And so if you are someone who doesn't go that extra step to verify or to take a very critical eye to what you're working with, that's where the slop comes from, right? I oftentimes have to remind myself to check 3 times, check 4 times, go out and verify, and prompt many times more in order to get to the quality level that I want. And so I do feel like there is a disruption in the sense of it's in the wrong hands, it can make us very, very lazy people. And I do worry about that. We're also getting into a state of the world now where I think attention is becoming more and more scarce. And I think focus is also becoming more and more scarce. People are even less patient now than when social media first came on the scene, right?
True.
And so we're in a scrolling culture. And the scary thing about that is social media turned us into a scrolling culture. AI just makes us ignore the screens altogether. We talk about headless agents, for example. So this idea of headless agent is an agent that works without a screen. So it's just a piece of software that just works somewhere out there in the cloud.
Sure.
You don't need to interact with it. It just delivers results. So it doesn't need to have a screen. It doesn't have a face. And we're going into a world where your headless agent is talking to my headless agent in the background, and we've skipped the human part of the interaction. And I think that's going to make us all just a little bit more distant.
Yeah, I think isolation is the greater concern that I have. Yeah. And the next thing that I'm actively working on, I'm with a couple of startups. One of the things that we are working on is using AI as a collaboration tool rather than just an output tool. So how does that look in the context of, can AI actually empower collaboration? So can AI simplify? And surprisingly enough, we did this project with my students. It was a patronage from Microsoft back in 2019 about empathy. And the solution before the models came was the envisioning of the people was a sort of artificial intelligence that would help quiet introverts to collaborate better. Although we didn't have this model, no, so we just envisioned that, which is an amazing project with my students, and so that is very interesting to me, how we can twist a little bit and mold the approach to can this become a tool for collaboration. And in your work, you work with a lot of different leaders, from different backgrounds, from different cultures. Do you think, can AI, because culture is a big one, right? So like you said before, East meets West, working with an Indian person is very different than working with a German person. Can AI become a translator or I don't know, somebody that can help this, shorten this distance?
So in the marketing world, we do a lot of monitoring, right? So for example, we monitor social media, and that is something that every digital agency does. And in that space, we have found that AI is very effective, first of all, in just collecting and analyzing very large volumes of data across different cultures and different markets, right? So when we're summarizing sentiment about a particular topic from India, and we're doing the same for South Korea or Japan, when you put all of that together, it does perform the role of translating messages across cultures in the sense of just aggregating our understanding of people's opinions about a particular topic. And that's something that we do all the time. If we were to put AI in between people from different cultures as a communication tool and to translate between cultures, I see that as kind of like a double-edged sword, because one of my firm beliefs is I do feel that as AI becomes more and more common and starts to put distance between people, for example, instead of me talking to you, it's my agent talking to your agent. So it puts a bit of distance between people already. So I think if we're doing that, that means that what becomes valuable again is relationships and contact and engagement and presence. And so I do worry a little bit that we don't fall into the trap of just relying on AI to be a translator or a middleware, and that continues to kind of push us apart. So I think in a sense, can it be a translator? Yes. But I feel that what becomes more and more valuable is engagement, presence, relationships. And so in that sense, perhaps it can, like the universal translator in Star Trek, but question is, do we want it to do that? Do we want to let AI push us apart even more?
True.
Or do we just kind of set that tool aside and try to understand each other's cultures ourselves? So instead of needing translation,
we are not doing it either now.
Well,
so.
yeah, I know. We need to do more of that.
Yeah.
But maybe that's something that's worth working hard at.
True.
Versus asking a tool to do that for us.
True.
I totally enjoy understanding your culture, for example, Italian culture, and I'm sure you love understanding Chinese culture.
Absolutely.
And that's something that we don't want to outsource to a piece of software.
No, I agree 100%. But I have this funny story that I want to share with you, because it's one of my first Hong Kong stories. When we opened the studio in Hong Kong, I had a few suppliers that sent me at the opening the flowers, right? So, congratulations, yeah, and it was overwhelming to me because this is not something that we do, right? I mean, not to that extent, not without knowing. Like I arrived to the venue and I had a bunch of flowers outside from that supplier. Because it's a common.
Yes.
And I was overwhelmed. So then I got invited to the launch of a new business, and my team said, well, we should do, we should, how do you say, we should do the flower thing. And so I went to the flower shop and I was like, being a designer, I was like, okay, so is it possible to make it all white? Because it's very interesting to me. And the flower was like, oh, I'm very sorry. It was like, no, it's a supplier. And she looked at me and I was like, no, you cannot. And I was like, why? Why you cannot? And no, it's not appropriate. And I was like, why? It's so beautiful, these lilies. And then she was like, no, we do that only for funerals. And I didn't know. So luckily for me, I had this moment of translation. And I had a person that was kind enough not to make me do that mistake. Right? Because for her, the florist, she would be like, sure, whatever, I'm going to charge you more, and I don't care if you make a bad choice. No? For her, if we were completely transactional, she wouldn't care. I was like, well, whatever, I'm going to do whatever you ask me. But she was kind enough to actually teach me. And it was like, okay, you don't do this, you should do this. And these are the actual flowers that we use for this occasion because this has this meaning, and this means wealth, and this means prosperity, etc., etc. So, but I was lucky, and I don't think you always have that luck.
And it was a real person that did that for you.
Yes.
And now imagine if you were ordering those flowers online.
Yeah, it was just like, sure.
You would have just gone ahead and bought the flowers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
David, I always like to close the show with the fire round. What inspires you, and what do you want to inspire?
Courage in the face of crisis.
Wow.
That inspires me because I think we're living in a very crisis-ridden world right now. I think everyone's feeling very unsettled. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of just, bemoaning how awful the world is. And sometimes we sit together with friends and we talk about it. And we talk about how, we don't want to travel to certain countries because we might get stopped at the border. We don't have our phones checked, whatever. But what I found even more interesting and more inspiring is when I speak to people who are brave, who are courageous enough to talk about what are some of the things that we can do, the system that we live under, how do we change that. I find that very inspiring.
True. What challenges you, and what do you want to challenge?
Comfort being mistaken for competence. I worry about that.
Let's repeat it.
Yeah, comfort being driven by competence. If we get too comfortable living in this world of AI, we believe in our fake competence.
True.
And I genuinely worry about that. I think a lot of us are going to fall into that trap.
I have a line that says that we have to shift our mindset from experts to explorers.
Yeah.
And last, what do you want to disrupt with your work? Or what kind of disruption do you wish to happen?
I want to challenge people to use AI to help them be better leaders in a way that doesn't harm us in the long run. And again, it's all about making sure that we don't forget the human elements. I think it's very important to, like our earlier conversation about AI as a cultural translator, it's easy to say, yes, it's great, let's do that, let's use it that way. I would want to challenge that and say, there are certain things that should be left to humans. True. And I think that if we can make the distinction between AI's ability to make us worse leaders and how it can elevate the way that we go through the world as leaders of people, as managers of people, and systems, and agents, and bots, I think we're going to be okay. Are we there yet? I'm not entirely sure, but I do feel that there are pockets in the world where we're going in the right direction.
True.
And I mean, even in the US, where people would probably say it's unbridled acceleration of investment in AI and so on, there was a piece of news recently where the US government is now saying they want to regulate the models, the foundational models. They will review them before they're released. And I think a lot of that was driven by Mythos, which is the model that Anthropic chose not to release. And they chose not to release it, but they did have a limited testing body of companies that are testing it. And the word is it's going to cause huge disruption in the world. And so I think governments are sitting up and waking up to the fact that they do need to have some safeguards. And so I think the tide might gradually, slowly turn, but we just have to keep talking about it.
True. I have so many questions, David. I would promise me you can gonna come back.
Of course.
Of course. Thank you very much. I'm Gianluca Cinquepalmi. This is Creative Leaders of the House. Thank you so much, David Ko, for having this amazing conversation. Thank you, Soho House, for hosting us. Thank you, Adri Mendoza, for the wonderful tech support and video. And as usual, don't forget to inspire, challenge, and disrupt.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.